on Zoom, it's hard to identify who spoke up. So if you say the name, then there's verification of who made the motion and who seconded it.
Thank you. So the meeting is, we call the meeting to order. We have a roll call.
Ms. Gills? Ms. Jenkins is on Zoom. Ms. Rogal Miller?
Present.
Mr. Massey? Ms. Lambert?
Present.
Ms. Haley?
Present.
Vice Chair Colleen?
Here.
Chair Ms. Saraka? You have a quorum present.
That's the approval of the agenda. Does anyone move for the approval of the agenda? I'll move. Maria Lambert. Thank you.
Colleen supports.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Approval of the May 16th meeting and the minutes.
So that's where we go for purposes of Zoom. Chair will say Colleen or Lambert moved, Colleen seconded it. And then give the vote. So
Maria Lambert approved. Tim Colleen.
Yeah.
Seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Reports from the chair.
An approval for the May 16, 2022
Yes.
meeting minutes.
Yes. I don't have much to report from the chair except.
Well, we're going to vote on the minute.
Oh,
Previous
I thought we
minute.
did. Let's see. We approved the meetings for the minutes on May 16th.
Right. Thank you. I'll move to approve the May 16th, 2022 minutes of the Wayne County Port Authority.
Moved by Tim Colleen, seconded by. I'll second. Maria Lambert.
Reverse the last one.
There you go.
All those in favor?
Aye. Madam Chair, if I may, before we go on to the next item, Commission Council sent me a text to remind me, because the Zoo Authority meeting is going on downstairs right now, so the zoo and so she's down there, but she sent me a note to say members that are on Zoom can't vote or participate in discussion of any items. So again, you have to be in the room if you're on the Port Authority Board under the state law, under the Open Meetings Act. You can't vote or you can't participate in discussion if you're not in the room. That's the law. So I just want to. She had heard what I said earlier, and she was like, "Nope, you got to tell them they can't participate in discussion either."
Thank you for that.
Yep.
Would you tell me again, Tim, who's on Zoom?
Ms. Haley's on Zoom and Ms. Jenkins is on Zoom. Sorry, Madam Chair. Break your stride.
Next is item B, which is report from the chair. I don't have much to report except that I'm very happy that we're all together again so that we can carry on. It's hard to carry on through Zoom and through telephone calls. And I think it's to give justice to the taxpayers and to those that support us that we need to meet in person and carry on the work that we've been elected to do. And that's my remarks. Thank you. Unfinished business under E.
Discussion of hiring authority council.
discussed that some time back, and I'm not sure exactly where it went because I think the unfinished business is about finished us off because we're all split up and don't talk too much to each other. So I think we need to start all over with that again. So, does anyone have any comments under that? Under the, Tim, do you have any comments under that? So I know that we talked about the hiring of the,
Madam Chair, I'm referring to the minutes of the last meeting, May 16th, that we just approved. And under item E, which was unfinished business at that time, there was a motion, well, there was a couple of motions. One was to discuss the service agreement with the Commission Counsel, Felicia Johnson. We didn't take a vote on that, but that was amended to discuss service agreement with Counsel Johnson to include sending a letter to the Wayne County Chair, Alicia Bell, and Wayne County Executive Warren Evans, requesting permission to solicit legal representation. And as you recall, that was, the Corporation Counsel was in the discussion on that, but apparently nothing between May 16th and today has been done on that. So that's why it's back on the agenda as full business.
so the letter was written to them and they did not respond?
No, I'm not aware of any letter that was sent.
Oh. Well, then, so it was up to us to send the letter and we didn't send the letter. Then what we're supposed to do.
Apparently that's what happened, Madam Chair, or did not happen.
To resolve this issue, let's just make sure that that letter gets out by early next week. We can get together and just make sure that a letter gets out, because this is something that could be settled and handled within a couple of weeks. We did not take care of it, but it's something that could be taken care of in the next couple of weeks, because we do need to move forward about the whole millage and the date, and we were supposed to seek counsel on that. And there were just a lot of moving parts. We wanted to make sure that we had outside discussions and just a lot of moving parts to it. So we haven't done it yet, but that's something that could be handled within the next 2 weeks. So my request is that we give ourselves about another 2 weeks to get that letter out to Chair Bell and to Mr. Evans to make sure that we can just move forward. But there were just a lot of moving parts to that.
Who is going to send that letter? Or who should have sent that letter? One of the two.
Well, I think given the minutes, we didn't assign anyone, but it seems to me it would make perfect sense for the chair and the secretary to draft such a letter.
Aren't there two secretaries? There's a recording secretary and a corresponding secretary.
Talking about you, Barb, whichever one you are.
I'm recording secretary.
Okay.
I'm happy to write that.
Yeah, if the two of you can get the language together, and you might want to go back to the May 16th YouTube of the meeting, just go back and listen to some of the discussion under this item. That may help clarify the kind of letter and the kind of request we're making. But we were discussing at that meeting, right, that Corporation Counsel does have attorneys that support other authorities and organizations attached to Wayne County. And they would also know all the lawyers in town or whatever. So if you guys can go back and listen to that May 16th YouTube, that may give you more direction.
Okay, thank you.
And hopefully we can do that in a couple of weeks and get moving.
Thank you. And under unfinished business, discussion of hiring authority counsel, I think we just discussed that.
Yeah, we just did that, yeah.
Okay. Right. New business,
Report from the Detroit Institute of Arts.
Well, just before you speak, I'm sorry, this is what I wanted to know, the people that are on the Zoom, they are not allowed to vote. Is that just the people from the Arts Council? Is that for the Arts Council or this entire group? What is how does that?
Under the Open Meetings Act, if you are on a public board right now, the meetings are in person. You can attend them by Zoom, but you cannot vote or participate in discussion. Now, we do have people like the executive director or the Art Institute on the line, and just like any other public body, something may come up in discussion that we would want in your report or something like that, that we would want some feedback on. But what the Open Meetings Act is saying is, in order to be a board member participating in voting and in deliberations leading up to a vote, you can't do that from Zoom.
Right.
But it's not a bar from, you know, just like any public meeting. We call on this guy, come in and have a comment on something that has some expertise on something, but that's not participating in deliberations. That's just, so, no, we can hear from other people, but
Well,
they don't participate in our deliberations anyway.
the reason that I asked that is because, you know, every meeting that we have, I constantly ask that the representative from the DIA, Sharon Harrell, I believe, her name, if she's not allowed to speak, that is why I was asking.
Yeah.
If she's not allowed to speak, and she does represent Wayne County, and although she's attending by Zoom, it is a constant concern to me, every meeting that we've had this year, that she is not present at our meetings. And that is why I asked, because I want to, if I have a question or their deliverables or whatever it is, I just, and this is just my personal opinion, I feel like she should be in our meetings for the Wayne County meetings. And if she is not present and she cannot speak, she cannot vote, we cannot hear her, then there's still a concern there. And I addressed that every meeting this year.
Well, and that's going to be up to the DIA who they bring to report, right?
Sure.
And she never participates in voting
Sure.
or of the deliberations leading up to a vote.
Sure.
Although they will all present from their different, and when they report to us.
I just wanted to ask that as we go into the new business and talk about what the DIA is doing when we are we are a board and we are selected to represent a whole community. And if she is part of what you guys are delivering and she is never here and never speaks, again, that is just a concern to me. And I'm just sorry that it's not being addressed satisfactorily to me. Yes. Okay, but go ahead.
Can we do it this way? What's her name again? And what's her job title?
I believe.
So Sharon Harrell, she's in my department.
Yeah.
She reports to Public Affairs and Community Engagement, and she's a Community Engagement Manager for Wayne County. So we have one for each county. We have one in Macomb, one in Oakland, and then Sharon is the Community Engagement Manager for
Can we
Wayne.
request that she always be present at this meeting, either in person or on Zoom?
Ms.
Any
Harrell is,
questions?
through the chair, Ms. Harrell is on Zoom
Okay.
today.
We are aware that she's on Zoom, but as far as voting and deliverables, that is why I asked the question. So I am aware that she's on the
Oh,
Zoom.
okay.
My concern is that she is never present in the meeting to do
Okay.
presentations on behalf of Wayne County. And that's who she represents. And the question again to you, Julie, was, can we request that she be in meetings? Because I know that I have personally done it every meeting that we've had this year.
Yes, I can make sure that Sharon attends the next meeting, and I can certainly speak for most of the work that we do in Wayne County. Sharon's able to participate as well. And, you know, I feel comfortable providing the detail that needed, but Sharon certainly here can speak to anything specific we want to talk about in the meeting today that I'm not able to answer. And yes, I will talk to Sharon about making sure her schedule makes her available for, I think our next meeting is December
19.
I think it's a good idea that you meet her one time too, since.
Sure. So if we're ready, I'm happy to kind of walk through the report that I provided in your packets today. So this is the half-year meeting. This is required in the Amendment 2. And we're happy to be here to talk about all of our activities in the first half of 2022 service agreement work for the calendar year. But before I get started, I want to make sure that I introduce all of the DIA folks that are here with us today. So Judith Dolkart will go over exhibitions. Judith is our Deputy Director of Art Education Programs. Of course, we have Sharon Harrell on the phone, Community Engagement Manager for Wayne County, and Salvador Solor Pons, DIA Director. And then new to the team, we have with us today Anthony Smith. Anthony is our new Vice President of Learning and Audience Engagement. So I'm going to let Anthony say a couple things about his background and his new role at the museum.
Good morning. Thank you, Julie. As Julie said, I'm the new Vice President, your new Vice President of Learning and Audience Engagement at the DIA. I'm absolutely thrilled to be part of this dynamic team. I hail from Detroit Public Schools Community District, where I was the Deputy Executive Director for Fine and Performing Arts. And I'm super excited to not only be able to serve the students of Detroit Public Schools, but every resident of Wayne County. So if there is anything that I can assist you with, any questions you may have, please feel free to reach out. I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. My daughter's a teacher at Detroit Public Schools, and she was really happy that you got this.
Denise? Yes.
Denise Nazaraka.
Yes. I know.
Excuse me if I may interrupt. Your title is Vice President of Learning and,
Audience engagement.
thank you very much.
We're happy to have you too.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may
Yes.
ask a quick question. And I'm sorry, I missed the name.
Anthony Smith.
Mr. Smith, welcome to the DIA.
Thank you.
While you were with, well, I still call it DPS. But that's the way it is, and it's forever will be Kobo, nothing else. While you were with DPS, were you participating on the DPS side of the program that the DIA was running in terms of teacher education and education for students and what the DIA is bringing to classrooms in the district?
Yes, sir.
So you have that background, so you know how that worked between the DIA and the Detroit Public Schools in terms of what, and I won't ask you to go into it today, but I just want to know, but just in terms of what the DPS was looking for, what the DIA, I'm sure there was a lot of negotiations to get to how are we going to actually do this.
Absolutely.
Probably looking at the state curriculum, right? Do we need it in 4th grade? Do we need it in 6th grade? So, okay, I think that's good for future discussions for this board, that we've had somebody seeing both sides of that discussion, which will go back to the service agreements at some point. So welcome and thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Commissioner Quinn. Just to say that Anthony also served on the Education and Interpretation Committee for the board at the DIA. So he had a lot of insight to programs across all of our.
Okay. Yeah, I think that will inform discussions later on when we talk about service. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me in.
So I do want to mention there is one additional person that I missed on Zoom. Christine Klostra, our Director of Marketing and Communication, Executive Director of Marketing and Communication, is with us today via Zoom as well. So I'm just going to walk through this very brief PowerPoint. I have printed copies, and I think we're just going to walk through paper copies today. So the first slide you see, this is just the framework. So this is, this is basically how we organize benefits and services for Wayne County residents. Participation and investment goals are here to help us measure our engagement on a yearly basis. And benefits and programs fall into these categories of free admission, school program, senior program, and community partnership programs. So in the next few slides, I'm just going to go into a little bit of detail on each of these and where we stand at the half-year mark of calendar year 2022. So the next slide is free admission. So we are, Wayne County residents are entitled to free unlimited general admission. We continue to see increasing admissions as residents become more comfortable getting out and about as we recover from the pandemic. For the convenience of residents, we continue to take free reservations for admission, and we also serve residents on a walk-up basis. Most of our programming is back up and running. We have Friday Night Live, 2 Fridays a month in the auditorium, and activities like drop-in art making in the studio, drawing in the galleries. These are happening weekly once again. In the first half of the year, we had a little bit over 25,000 Wayne County residents take advantage of free admission. So moving on to the school programs, as most of the board members know, the DIA provides free field trips for K through 12 students, including the cost of bus transportation and a guided tour of the museum. When making a field trip reservation, teachers can select from a variety of topics that connect directly to classroom learning, making their students' time in the museum last far beyond that visit. In the first half of 2022, we welcomed over 8,500 students from Wayne County on free field trips. We've also continued our virtual field trip program because we know not every teacher, not every student is able or wants to come to the museum right now. So we had over 1,100 students participate in a virtual field trip in the first half of the year. We also host several educator events just to continue to help teachers learn more about the DIA as a resource partner and continue to extend that field trip experience into their classrooms. Private workshops on a number of topics are available as well, and those can be customized to support specific learning outcomes desired by a school or a district. We also continued our Dpscd Cultural Passport program. So that serves every second grader in the school district with a field trip to the museum. So we're fulfilling that commitment virtually, but now we're having those students back into the museum again. So we will move that back into an in-person experience for all of those second grade students in Dpscd.
Please, over to me to ask a question about this. As I said, my daughter's a teacher in the DPS, and she teaches 11th and 12th grade, and most of her students have never been to the DIA. And this is something that concerns me. If it's her school, I'm sure other schools haven't either. So how can we improve that so more children have the opportunity to come down to the DIA to see things, because seeing them and touching them is much different than looking at them over Zoom.
Sure. And so the Dpscd Cultural Passport program is to make sure that we get the entire second grade level into the museum, but that doesn't exclude anyone else. So your daughter who teaches 11th and 12th grade, I can provide the number and information for our group reservations department, or we can have someone reach out to her directly to make sure that she's connected to the resources.
Okay.
So we'll send a bus to pick up her and her students and bring them down to the museum.
And I'm sure there must be other students that have the same desire that never even been downtown to see the DIA, and I think that's important.
Sure. So we work, on building relationships with districts, and through our teacher professional development, getting teachers down into the museum so they can see firsthand and understand the value for their students to come to the museum. We also have an Edu News Newsletter that goes to a really big listserv across all 3 counties to make sure that teachers, principals, district administrators see all of the things that are offered at the museum. So, I mean, we can't say it enough. You know, it's like free admission. There's still people who don't know they get free admission. So, you know, we have to continue to put that message out. And, you know, people at this table, you know, can help by just helping make those connections to people that you know in your network, people that we might be missing, or people need to hear it 2 or 3 or 4 times, you know, for it to all sink in.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner.
If I could comment on that, because this discussion comes up a lot at these meetings. We just saw that in the service agreements, we allocate $150,000 for free transportation down to the DIA. That's all across Wayne County. There's no way you can get every classroom down to the DIA for $150,000 of free bus transportation. There's no way. There's going to be plenty of classrooms. I don't know what an average cost is to get a bus and bring folks down.
So just to clarify, so the $150,000 commitment for bus transportation is a guideline. We don't stop. So.
Well, the point I'm making is that you don't have the money to bring every single classroom down in Wayne County.
So we don't say no when a school.
I understand
makes
what
a
you're saying. What does
reservation.
it cost to get a bus and get a class down there?
It depends on distance. I'd say
More or less.
$400 to $600 a bus.
Okay. So you do a little math with 250,000 and you see actually how many classrooms you can get down there. My guess would be there's plenty of classrooms in Dearborn schools, in Canton schools, in River Rouge schools that also have not been down there. We do, the DIA does notify every school district of the availability of this, correct?
Yes, we reach out to school districts in a number of ways.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I believe we've discussed before too, is every principal gets notification of the free.
We have quite a large listserv.
Yeah.
That we continue to update with
Yeah.
administrators, teachers, principals,
Yeah, and
for Wayne
so
County schools.
every school is going to know about this. Whether they take that up or not, or they're able to schedule it, is a different story. But I'd be afraid to guess how many classrooms there are.
But why don't we discuss how many have taken advantage of this and where the
Well,
problem is?
there's no problem. From my viewpoint, there's no problem. We have gotten those lists of every classroom that's been down there. We've gotten those lists
Well, I don't remember.
in the past. So let's just say it's $500, right? $1,000 to get 2 classrooms down there. $1,000, right? Into like 250,000. The way I do that math is 250 classrooms. There is a heck of a lot more than 250 classrooms in all of the schools everywhere in Wayne County. So what I'm getting at is the feasibility that every classroom is going to get down there. And I'm also making the point, and we have gotten reports on this in the past too, that the outreach from the DIA to let every school district, every school in Wayne County know that this is available. That has not, it's not like we're keeping it a secret, or the DIA is keeping it a secret from anybody. And then there are the practical problems that schools have about whether they want to schedule it or not, and all of that sort of thing. So I'm just, there's nothing, I'm just putting that out there. You know, it's the context, right? Not every classroom is, there's not enough money to bring every single classroom down.
But how many people have taken advantage of this?
We get reports on that too.
Well, I don't remember it, so I'd like to have that at the next meeting.
Well, she may have it today. That'd be a question.
So if you look at the report in your packet, and you go to the back, you'll see starting on page 10, all of the schools who came for in-museum field trips in the first half of the year and the number of students served in the school district. I know that Ms. Evans had requested the number of students served and the number of trips each school made. So that's denoted in parentheses next to the school. If it was multiple trips, there'll be a number there. And then the number of students served. So beginning on page 10 are the in-museum field trips. And then on page 13 at the bottom are the schools who participated in virtual field trips. And then at the end of this calendar year, I'll summarize this for the entire calendar year. So you can see which districts are participating. We look at this in the education department. We look to see who's coming. We also look to see who isn't coming. And that gives us the ability to do like a little bit more targeted outreach, pick up the phone, make some calls, and see, you know, the districts that aren't participating, you know, get a little bit of information about why that is, if they need something different. Judith?
Thanks,
Any
everyone.
comment on that?
Sure, thanks everyone. I would love to urge, if you know teachers, to encourage them to do our professional development offerings, which happen every month. And that will give them a good sense of the many types of tours that they can take. They can also look at that online at our website to see. This year obviously was a challenge as school was coming back online in person. A lot of tours were booked, and then if a child was ill, then the trip would be canceled, understandably. So this year was a bit of a catch-up year in the sense that we tried to schedule as many on-site as we could, but COVID obviously took a toll a little bit. If there was an infection in the class, then the field trip was canceled. But we've tried to make up with that with online learning whenever a teacher has asked, and we'll do whatever we can to encourage teachers to bring their classes. We love seeing the museum filled with kids.
Thank you. I have to sorry to drive this point home, but I'm looking at the list of schools in Detroit. Communicating Arts School is not listed, and that's where Denise teaches. And Communicating Arts School not on the list. What is the problem? It's got to be a problem somewhere. So how do we find out that problem? Would that be the principal of the school, perhaps?
So I can look and see if they've come in the past. So this is just the first. This is just the first half of the year. So perhaps, you know, this is a group that comes in the second half of the year. I couldn't say that right
They've
now.
never come at all. So
They've never come at all.
No.
Okay. Well, then we need to, you know, get some information and we can reach out to that school.
thank you. Because with Communicating Arts, that seems to me a school that should be on the list.
Sure. So they've never, you know, that they've never come.
No.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
And just looking down this list too, I took a quick look at the Grosse Pointe public school system. 36 students from Brownell Middle School. I can't imagine how many. I think there's only 2 middle schools in the Grosse Pointe system. So Brownell will have, there's 3. Brownell will have 300-400 students. 36 of them made the trip. Grosse Pointe. So what's the problem? Grosse Pointe South High School. Grosse Pointe North isn't even mentioned here. That's having the high school students and the points. 89 students from Grosse Pointe South. 89. That's got to be 2,000 kids over there.
Mhm.
So again, if you're looking for a problem, right? Only 3 classes and 89 students out of, you know? So again, the point I'm trying to make is all these schools are notified and not all of them necessarily take it up for one reason or another. So I don't look at this as a problem. It's more a question of resources and where they can get to. And schools have to cooperate with it as well and have to say, whoever the principal is over at Communicating Arts, they know about this.
That person is no longer there, thank goodness.
Julie, is it?
All I can say is the school, communicating arts school, and the principal have been notified by this over there. So whatever goes on within the school.
Well, it doesn't matter who the problem is, the children are the victims of it.
The point is made. I understand your point, but I'm just trying to show you, right? I mean, we can have hundreds of teachers come here and say, I've never taken my students down here. I want my class to come down. Because there's hundreds of classrooms all around the county that have not made the trip down. So I understand your point. But I am at a loss for like something nefarious is going on.
We're lost, we really all must be lost.
Julie, if I could interject here, there's a list of non-district community organizations, schools. If it's possible for the next report or follow-up report saying where these schools are, because I do see Canton in here, and then I see Detroit Leadership Academy, which probably is in Detroit, and Old Redford Academy is so scattered that you can't really say where they are unless you know the name of the early childhood elementary. Where is that? So we don't know if we're missing opportunities in certain cities because of the way they're listed. So if there's
So I have a city field that I didn't put in here. So as a follow-up to this meeting, I'll redo this report and drop in that city column as well, so you can see that, because you're right, that's a lot of organizations, and sure.
And one more thing, just in Wayne County, not just the school districts, I don't want the school districts because it's a million of them, right? But cities in general that are not participating, that are in Wayne County, if we could have a list of those, because maybe we can reach out a little bit better to try to expand that list a little bit. That would be great.
Okay, yeah, I'll send this resend it with the city field in it. And then I can probably drop this down and map it and give us kind of a good idea of, it'll show us where we are and it'll show us where we aren't. So let me work on that in the next couple weeks and see if I can get something visual to help us dig into this a little bit more. And then the only other comment I would make, just putting the 8,500 into perspective. So this is just the first half of the year. The commitment is for 16,000 students. In our last regular year before the pandemic, we had close to 30,000 students from Wayne County come to the museum. So it's the first half of the year, and it's not, a regular year. So as we move out of the pandemic and start to understand how people are going to behave sort of in the after times, we still see a lot of schools that like the virtual tour program. So we're going to keep offering that. I know we all love to see the kids in the museum, and that firsthand experience with art is, really incredible. But if they're not, if there's groups that aren't going to come to the museum, then this is a way to reach them too, is through virtual. So
Does the DIA have a program where they go to the schools and do a program for the students? The glory of the DIA is accessible to you. It's free. It's yours. When you say that we need more kids to go to the DIA, don't we have to sell the DIA to them? And wouldn't that be effective through a program like a presentation in classrooms, as opposed to trying to drag them down, inspire them to come on their own?
sure. And we try to build that into everything we do. Like anything that we do in the community, we try to use that as a way to encourage people to connect to the museum too. When we talk about like Inside Out in the community, everything we do with Inside Out is to also encourage, like, come down to the museum and see it in person. So when we have students on field trips, we encourage them to come back with their parents so they can share it with their parents. When we do a virtual field trip, that's manned by a live gallery teacher. There's a live Q&A that happens, and we're always encouraging people, whatever they're engaging, however they're engaging with the DIA, whether it be in the community or in a virtual program, or in the museum to encourage them to come back and take advantage of free admission. We don't currently have an in-school program, and that's something that we can talk about as we talk about what we want this to look like for the next 10 years.
Hey, Julie, if I could, I want to urge again, if you know a teacher, urge them to take a professional development opportunity, because they'll really have an insight into the many things that we can offer at the museum in person. The teacher is the key. You have to motivate the teacher to come. And not only that, we do have materials that we can provide to teachers that they can use in the classroom as well. So those are downloadable from the website, but getting the teacher to sign their class up, is the key to getting the kids to come downtown.
Thank you.
Questions for you, Madam Chair?
Certainly, thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking about this second grader. Every second grader is Dpscd. Now, is that where they can just come down on their own with their family and have a guided tour? When you say you make this available to every second grader, is it just coming down on buses, or can they come down anytime?
Well, they can always come down anytime, but the Dpscd Cultural Passport Program, and I'm looking at Judith because I want to make sure I say this right, or maybe Judith, you want to walk through the program.
Go ahead. You can continue.
So it's every second grader comes to the museum on a field trip, and it also includes teacher resources that are created in collaboration with Dpscd teachers, and then there's teacher professional development. So it's more than just the field trip. The teachers are really primed for this field trip with their students, and the teachers also inform the experience so that it's relevant to these kids. The Passport program is also in collaboration with Michigan Opera Theater and Detroit Symphony Orchestra. So each of those organizations does a grade level experience too. We have the second graders.
If I might ask, what is the significance of second graders? I mean, the second grade, how did you choose 2 and not 3 or 5, or my favorite was 7th grade? So how did you choose 2, if you don't mind me
So
asking?
this actually predated my time at the DIA, but I think it was, and Anthony may have a better sense, at the request of the schools and in collaboration with the 2 other organizations. I think second grade is, probably a key educational milestone year. So that's probably why it was selected. I also loved 7th grade myself. But I think that's probably why. Also, the curriculum connects very well with some of our collections. So that's also critical in terms of what they learned that year.
Well, I know for state testing, they do 4, 7, and 11. And that's why I asked about second grade, because that has never been a significant milestone number in Michigan that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
And I know 3rd grade is a earmark for Detroit Public Schools. So that is why I was asking about second grade, because it hasn't had any significant play in Michigan school system. That's why I asked.
If I can just respond a little bit to that, the cultural passports is 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, so that all of them are getting an arts experience. It may be a different type of arts experience. Julie did mention that we are also in partnership with Michigan Opera Theater and the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, so that those classes may be going to one of those places.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, so if we're ready to move on, I can talk a little bit about where we are on the senior program. Again, the silver lining of the pandemic is it allowed us to develop virtual programs too. So we do continue to have a virtual Thursdays at the Museum program. That's at 1 o'clock every Thursday, music, film, studio visits, interactive behind the scene talks. I just watched one last week. Really very interesting and a great way for our docents to stay active in a different way during the pandemic. So that continues. But we also welcome senior group visits back to the museum. That was fall of 2021 that we started having senior groups back in the museum. So that is starting to get traction again. We have transportation is provided for groups of 25 or more. And currently that's a docent-led tour of the museum. So in the first half of 2022, we had 21 group visits to the museum. If you look in your report, you'll see the groups that participated in tours of the museum. We have a really great list of senior centers, senior living facilities. So we continue to reach out to the big group of seniors that used to come to make sure that they're aware that we're back in the museum. And if they're not ready to come see us, we want to make sure they're aware that there is a virtual option as well. We continue to do our behind the scene art talks, and there's over a dozen topics that they can choose from for those. We will send a docent out to their location, or if they prefer to do that virtually, we're doing that virtually as well. You'll see in your report too, a list of groups that have either hosted a behind the scene art talk at their location in person or virtually. So we continue to look for ways to engage our seniors. We love having them back in the museum. So we're looking to get as many of those groups back as possible with free transportation and free coffee in the cafeteria.
Julie, in this list, unlike the list with students that were on field trips, if we could include how many seniors were included on these trips, that would be great, so that we can know about how many seniors are engaged in these programs. The list of facilities is great, but we would like to know, was it 2, was it 10, was it 15, 25 or more, was it 25, was it 50?
Sure.
Just to know what we're doing there.
Okay. I can provide that. I have that field, so I can just provide that report with that participation number included. And I'll do that as a follow-up to this meeting. And then moving on to the last category of the service agreement, community partnership programs. And that is on page 6 of your handout. So these are the locations where we have Inside Out right now. The application for 2023 closed 2 or 3 weeks ago. So we're working on our roster of communities for next year. The communities who are participating right now, these locations will have their reproductions up into the fall, probably into early November. You know, again, community partnership programs like Inside Out are a great way for us to connect with people in the community and hopefully encourage them to come down and take advantage of other benefits like the senior program and free admission to visit the museum. Every year, as you know, we do a community partnership program plan. So in the program plan for 2022, we have the DIA Community Group Studio Program. And there's more information in your report on who participated in that. We had a really wonderful supercharged concert of colors on our campus this year. That happened after the half year. So in your next report, you'll get more detail on that. We're working on our Partners in Public Art program with a mural project in Wyandotte that we will either complete at the end of this year or when the weather breaks in 2023. Our Ofrenda exhibition is coming up. That includes many artists from Southeast Michigan. And yeah, that will open in October. October will be a busy month in the museum because of the Ofrenda exhibition and another exhibition that Judith will talk a little bit more about. Our school groups and our senior groups love the Ofrenda exhibition right off of Rivera Court. Art making at fairs and festivals, you know, due to staffing shortages and a lot of changes in the fair and festivals across the 3 counties, we're going to start that again next year. But we do have art making activities online in the museum. And then, we encourage community visits to the museum. If there's a community group that's interested in coming to the museum, we can provide transportation for that. I know Barbara Miller here has booked a trip for Van Gogh for a community group that she's affiliated with. So we're excited to see them on November 19th for our Van Gogh exhibition.
And it's been very nice working with the DIA, very helpful. And, I was doing the arranging, fumbling and so on, but Rebecca Tubbs, this woman that I was working with, she's absolutely lovely. Couldn't help me enough. And I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you for that feedback, Barbara. So, that's sort of a sampling of community partnership programs that we have through the half year. You'll have more detail in your reports on that, and just a few things that we have coming up in the second half of the year. So, we count on you to help us spread the words to your friends and families and coworkers, neighborhood recreation centers, senior centers, schools. Group reservations department is ready to make arrangements for senior groups in school, field trips for your community. So we're excited to sort of move through, hopefully what's the end of the pandemic, and get back to more, having more people into the museum and taking advantage of all the service agreement benefits for Wayne County residents and residents of Macomb and Oakland. And then the last page is just contact. Certainly reach out to any of us. If you have a school you think wants to come or needs the extra nudge, a senior group that could use someone like Rebecca Tubbs to reach out to them and kind of walk them through the program, we're happy to do that. And then if there aren't any questions on the reporting, Judith was going to walk through one current exhibition and a couple. Two current exhibitions and one upcoming.
So the first of these is Conscious Response, Photographers Changing the Way We See. This is a photography exhibition that opened in late July. It includes recent acquisitions to the museum, including works by a number of photographers from Detroit and Southeast Michigan. It explores in black and white and color the types of scenes and ideas that have intrigued contemporary photographers. It's a very alluring and beautiful show. So I hope you'll come and see it. It's on view until early January. Then next, another show to whet the appetite for our Van Gogh show that opens in October is an exhibition called Van Gogh's Artistic Roots, the Hague School and French Realism. It opened in March and it runs through January 29th of 2023. This gives a little bit of an idea of the kinds of artists and art that Van Gogh himself was looking at and what may have intrigued him. So he was particularly interested in the Hague School, a group of artists who were working in the late 19th century and who continued the long tradition of looking at peasant life in the Netherlands. And then once he went to France, he was looking at artists like Léon Lhermitte, who you see here in the image, who likewise were looking at everyday scenes of rural life in France. The show is only about 12 works, but they'll be rotated because a number of them are works on paper. So anytime you come, you may see a brand new thing. So I encourage you to come and see it in preparation for Van Gogh. And then opening on October 2nd, we have Van Gogh in America. This exhibition celebrates the 100th anniversary of the museum's acquisition of a painting, a self-portrait by Van Gogh. The DIA was the first museum in the country to acquire work by Van Gogh, so it led the way. And we will have over 70 works by Van Gogh in the exhibition, 75 in all. This is really a way to chart how Van Gogh became a household name in the United States through his paintings, but also his representation in film. Films like Vincent Minnelli's Lust for Life set a kind of aura or mythology around Van Gogh, and this exhibition will explore all of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are very exciting reports. Julie,
I saw somewhere in the report that it was just a small paragraph. You guys did something like an artist call with students that I wasn't necessarily a part of, but I kind of threw the idea out there. And
you guys ran with it. Can you kind of elaborate on it? Because we don't have a page in there and a lot of people don't know that it happened. But if you can kind of talk about it to let us know what happens with it.
Sure, and I'll probably pivot to Judith on that because that was that was the Wayne White High School Art Show. This was the first year that we did it, and it was a really great suggestion. We have students from all over Wayne County submit their artwork, and for an inaugural show, we had a lot of artwork submitted. I think we had, I don't want to say the number, I think it's in the report, but we had a lot of artwork submitted, and we had an opening event, which was really well attended and really great to be able to see these young people standing in our learning center with all of the things that they created. Judith might want to add something to that.
Sure. So this was the inaugural year. It was really fun to see how it would come together. We put up a website so that kids could submit their own works. Each was allowed to submit 2. And then the show was juried, so the books were selected. And in all kinds of media, drawing, painting, photography, it was really exceptional to see what the kids put together, and especially meaningful to see them in the museum with their families, pointing out what they did. So it was really spectacular. Thank you for the suggestion.
One of the things that I wished maybe even people on this board didn't even know that it happened. If you guys have any actual pictures, things that you can share with us, the things that were submitted, you know, as a board in Wayne County, that was important, especially to me, for children to be able to participate. I've had so many people come up to me and say, you know, my artwork was in the DIA, and children that are absolutely proud of this and parents that were proud of this. And as a board, if we could have known that, you know, here's some things that were submitted, here's what was selected, that would have been great for us, because these are the works that we are proud of, and we can go back to the community and say, this is what we stood for in the meetings. This is what we gave, what we suggested, and the DIA is participating as, you know, as you requested. Because we have so many calls of people saying what we're not doing and how we're not engaged. When we engage in things like this is something that we all can talk about and go back to our communities and talk about.
Yes, and this group should be getting our Friday email, the Friday email from the DIA that would have had a link to the application, and you know, we should talk about maybe putting some of these things on the Art Authority website. There might be a chance to put something up there as well. I'll send this report out electronically, because if you look at page 8 where we talk about the Wayne County High School Art Show, there is a button that you can click and it will take you online. So it's all online. You can see all the artwork online. So, but yes, point taken. We need to look for more places to put this. And, you know, now that we have so much electronically, all of these exhibitions live well beyond, you know, being on the walls of the museum. So I'll make sure everyone gets this electronically so you can click on all the links and see the detail behind a lot of these programs that we talked about today.
Is it possible to put this, like we have a website, the Belleville Area Council for the Arts. Is it possible to share that link?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because it's just a link to YouTube.
Okay.
So I'll be able to, I can send that to you.
Okay.
And that would be,
I can send it on to the webmaster or whoever.
yeah, that would be wonderful. Thanks.
Okay.
Barbara.
Wonderful report, Julie.
As usual. Thank you.
Are we on approval of the resolution? Number 2, for levy and collection of millage and the 2022 tax rate request form.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is our annual duty as an Art Authority Board to approve a resolution for levying the millage. Notification goes out to all of the clerks in Wayne County to included on the tax bills later this year. Everyone should be familiar with the paperwork that's in their packet. With regards to this, we have with us today this report, which has to be signed by the secretary and the chair of this board, which we can take care of today. But you will see about 3/4 of the way down on the left-hand side that this report is prepared by one Scott T. Vandenberger, and he is the Director of Assessment and Equalization for Wayne County, and he is with us today. Do you have any comments on your report, Mr. Vandenberger? You can join us at the table here and just grab one of these mics. That mic up there has always been a mysterious beast for as long as yeah.
Morning, Scott Vandenberger, Director of Assessment and Equalization for Wayne County. As the commissioner said, what you have in front of you is the standard form that reports any taxes to both the local treasurers and assessors in city or county or city or township clerk, as well as to us in the equalization department and to the county clerk at that level. So there are a lot of consumers of this information, but the main thing that this report does is that it calculates the tax rate, and then there's a certification statement that attests that it was appropriately calculated. And then that information eventually flows to the county commission, along with 104 other taxing entities that levy a tax somewhere in the county. And that information is ultimately approved by the county commission to give it legal standing as a tax. So it doesn't become a tax until the county commission says it's a tax and it's been appropriately calculated. So this is the first step in that process.
And you are with us today because downstairs the Zoo Authority Board is meeting and they're voting on a similar resolution for the zoo.
Correct.
Millage. It's that time of year.
Correct. And the other day, similarly, we also did the Transit Authority. A little bit different in that case with the election, the placement for the election. But in this case, there's a new authorization for quite a number of years. So the funding is very solid for an income stream going many years up to the future now, thanks to the voters.
I'm not sure if this has anything to do with the question that we have about when the millage actually started and ended that we were seeking general counsel for. So my question to you is, we have a question, like I said, that we're seeking counsel for about the actual end date of the millage, whether it ends in 2022 or 2023. And as a board, we have not made that decision yet. So I see the language in here. It says 10 years from 2022 to 2031. And because we have not made that decision, should we be signing this? Should we be, that still needs to be addressed. So where are we on this at this time?
That's not something I've heard before. I've been preparing these rate requests for 6 or 7 years now, and the prior authorization expired with the 2021 levy. So this is the first year that would run 22 to 31 for those 10 years.
I'm sorry that you haven't heard it, but it is an issue. So to my board members, I wanted to know, is this something that we are going to vote on before we seek counsel? Because in our last meeting, that is what the whole point of seeking counsel to talk about the millage and the levy and everything. It was a pause, and we did not seek counsel on this. So I just want to know if it affects. So I do apologize that you have not heard of it in the 6 and 7 years, but we definitely address some things, and I just want to know if this directly relates to it.
Commissioner Colleen, I think, has a comment.
There's a misapprehension on the dates, Madam Chair. We have been approving this document every year for 10 years. And every year it states in there that this goes from Well, this is the new one. That will go from 2012 to 2021 for those 10 years. And that was in every one of those documents, because what you're referring to, Renata, is a date that's on the service agreements,
Correct.
which is not tied at all.
Well, that's what I was asking.
And no, it's not tied at all, because what matters is when the voters vote and establish a 10-year period for a millage. And that 10-year period expired last year, last year when we approved it. And the new millage begins January 1, 2022. And that is what is being reported to us by our equalization, who looks at all of these tax things and when they're, so what you're referring to is a date that is not tethered to when the voters actually approve what the 10-year period is. No, it's not tied to that. And any failure to act today on this resolution means that money will not be collected for the DIA this year, then, because this is the meeting that it has to happen.
And then we just received this Friday, so to even ask questions of general counsel through Wayne County wouldn't have been an option, because we received this language Friday at about 5:40, and we met here Monday. So to even ask the question, we have not been given that opportunity. So when you say that a failure to sign this today, I have not been able to do my due diligence, because the county has only been open 2 hours today to even ask the question. And I'm just asking questions. This is what we're on this board for. I'm just asking these questions. We received this Friday at 5 after hours of the county, and we met here Monday at 10 o'clock. And none of us here, with the exception of you, because you are the commissioner, have been able to do our due diligence to ask any questions from anyone. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't sign it. Yes, we have been signing it every year, but just because things have always been a way, that does not mean that they always have to continue to be that way. As we grow into our roles and have a better understanding of what we do, I think it is an obligation to the community to make sure that we are doing things correctly. So to give me a piece of paper Friday at 5:40 and say that I must sign it today without being able to ask questions or to do anything, I think that's just a little bit aggressive on the behalf of me as a member of this board.
Madam Chair? Yes.
So this is just to continue what we've been doing. It's not changing the rate. It's not changing anything else. It's exactly as it was last year. So personally, I don't see any problem in going ahead with it.
Are we sure of that? Has anybody compared it to this? I mean, compared this paper to, someone at the table is saying, yes, it is, but we have not read it. Well, I have not had the chance to read anything. So yes, if it is the exact same, we have someone saying that it is the exact same, yes, that is something that I would sign. But just to be sure of that, that's all I'm saying, just to make sure.
Can I ask a question? What about Oakland and Macomb? What have they done on this? If we're all in.
I don't know if that's relevant, Madam Chair.
Well, it might be.
Our director of equalization.
It may not be relevant, but I'd like to know.
Well, I know, but Ms. Lambert is exactly correct. The document put before us is a legal document. This means our director of equalization is attesting that this is accurate for the years and the amounts on this. This is the same document that has been presented to us for 10 years. And the question of the beginning and ending dates never came up prior to this. And if I could ask Mr. Vandenberger, he has some input into this.
What I was going to suggest is, if you like, not to disrupt the meeting, but it may take a few minutes. I can go upstairs to my office and get the rate request from last year and the year before potentially. Every year, it's a 10-year authorization. Every year when I'm putting the authorization for the purpose and the authorization period on there. So I'll say something like, levy year 10 out of 10 authorized, or levy year 7 out of 10 authorized years, so that there's kind of a sense of how much longer there is to go. The form that I prepared last year had 2 election dates. It had basically the running out of the former authorization, and it listed this authorization, although it didn't put any tax rates in there at that point because it didn't need to, because they didn't exist yet. But now with the 22 year, that's a standalone. If I can, just for my own clarification, edification, potentially the uncertainty or dispute, if there is one, maybe it's not the accurate language. The ballot language says for, correct me if I'm wrong, the 22 to 2031 tax years. I think that's what that document is right there, I believe. So in that document is expressed in terms of tax years. So there's tax years, there are calendar years, there are fiscal years. Apparently there are other dates that come into play with a service agreement. But as it relates to the ballot issue, the years on an election ballot are always expressed in terms of tax years. So if it begins at 2022, it's the first year of a 10-year levy. And down, obviously, in 2031, it draws down to that 10th year. I don't know anything about any other misunderstanding or anything like that. I wasn't aware that anything was not in good order if it's thought to not be in good order.
I just want to ask, we can actually charge up to 2 mils, and this is less than that, correct? Just by a little bit.
Right, yeah, the statute provides for 0.2 of a mil initially, when at the inception of the act. And then there's the constitutional provision, statutory provision in the Michigan Constitution and the public acts, where the Hadley Amendment requires that rate is incrementally reduced every year. It's kind of that's a long explanation, but it's to keep the tax base from growing faster than the rate of inflation, essentially. It's a limitation for how much the tax how much revenue can be raised. So there's an overall revenue limitation for the tax that would be capped at 5%. So the rate does go down over time because the tax, it's like a seesaw. The tax rate goes down and the taxable value goes up, and there's a constant product of the two things being multiplied together after being adjusted for inflation. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the resolution for the levy and collection of the millage.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Approved. Motion carried.
Is that a unanimous?
Yes.
motion?
Okay, we are in discussion of the status of the audit. Is there any discussion on the status
Oh,
of
yeah.
of the audit?
And I thought we had discussed this, Madam Chair.
Okay. That's fine.
We approved. I don't remember now, was the first meeting of the year, the second meeting of the year. That in order to conform with the Art Authority Act, which is included in your agenda packet today, that we need to do an annual audit, which we have not done to date yet, to be in compliance with the Art Authority Act. And the nature of that audit, as we have discussed previously, was that the auditor has to come in, take a look at documents like the one we just approved, how much is the millage based on tax collections, how much should be collected under this millage, under the DIA millage. And then the audit also verifies that the correct amount is transferred to the DIA, so that the correct amount is calculated and transferred. And that is what the annual audit is needed. At our meeting earlier this year, we approved a 3-year contract. We did have we sent out requests for quotes from people, and we selected a firm. What did not happen, and this is what the update is that audit firm was not contacted saying you won the bid. That is being drafted right now by Commission Counsel to draft a letter to the firm and to say you have been approved. And so I'm looking, hopefully at our December meeting, that we will have the results of that audit presented to us. But that's just an update. And I'll also comment, Madam Chair. The Art Authority has received another FOIA request. And that is for all of our minutes from the beginning of time. And that also is for all of these audits that we're discussing right now. So I think people can anticipate in December that we will have a discussion where we'll have to hire the audit firm to go back and do the first 9 years of audits that have not been done yet, because that's what is required of us under the Art Authority Act. So just so board members can be prepared for that discussion coming up. But that's the update on the audit. The letter is going out to the firm that won it and that we approved, and we should have the results of that before us in our December 19th meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Colleen.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Colleen, is there enough money in our budget to cover the cost of redoing those audits?
Yes. And that's going to be another item. Our annual budget will be at our December meeting too for the next year. But expenses such as this, and again, I highly encourage people to read the Art Authority Act that we are legally obligated as board members, each and every one of us, to be in compliance with. That any expenditure of such, like the contract that we just did, the 3-year contract, I think was for around $8,000 a year to do it for these 3 years. What happens there is that money is deducted from what is sent to the DIA as a normal and reasonable expense of an art authority. So probably what we're looking at is another 9 years, maybe another 70,000. So 1 year, or maybe, yeah, at 1 year, we will deduct from the 18 million. What's the million we send to the DIA every year from this millage?
I don't have the exact figure.
Ballpark. It's over 10 million, but not 30 million.
It's over 10 million, but not 30 million.
Yeah, so, but I'm just,
Not in a position of.
but just for reference for folks, that means when we approve a contract, go back over those 10 years, that 10 million, but not over 30 million will be diminished by a figure of about $70,000. And that's how that is paid for. So yeah, the reasonable expense of this body, just like all art authority bodies, are deducted before the money is transferred. And that's why you need the audit, where things properly deducted before the money was sent. So the answer is yes. Long-winded, Ms. Miller, but yes, the money's not an issue.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Colleen.
Mm-hmm.
On discussion of the service agreement,
Through the chair, This is Felicia Johnson, attorney for the commission. My hand is up. Apparently you all can't see me, but I would like permission to address the audit portion, if that is okay with the body.
Madam Chair.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Do you have something to say? Yes,
Ms. Johnson.
Yes, so in addition to what Commissioner Kleen just indicated about the audit, so it was my understanding that the letter for notifying the auditor was sent to members of the board to be issued out. If that has not occurred, commission staff will take care of that this week. That way the auditor will be advised that they won the bid, and the auditors that submitted proposal who were not selected will also be notified that they were not selected. So commission staff can take care of that, and we can do that this week. In addition to that, you have to have a contract with the auditor to actually perform the services, the audit services. I had a conversation with Chairwoman Bell earlier this week. She has authorized my office to initiate that contract on your behalf, if this body is okay with it, so that you can get those audit services started this fiscal year. So my office can't put together that contract. It'll be a standard contract that we use throughout the county, obviously tailored for the art authority and the auditor you select. So if this body authorizes, because again, I've already disclosed, I am technically not the lawyer for the body. You had a conversation earlier about getting that resolved, but in the interim, Commissioner Bell has authorized me to assist you to at least get this audit portion done this fiscal year. If that is the will of this body, we can do that. I can have that contract prepared and to you for signature this week so we can get it out to the auditor. If again, that is okay with this body. So I just need some direction and permission from the body with regards to how you would like to proceed. Again, commission staff can assist you with the various aspects of it in order to make sure it's done this year.
thank you very much.
Do that as a motion.
I'm sorry.
We should do that as a motion.
Are there any comments on this? Barbara, you had something to ask?
Yes, my question is, who is the audit firm?
It's my understanding that you all approved and selected Allen C. Young as your auditor. I believe it was for 4 audit years.
Thank you.
Do we need a formal motion for this now?
It may be prudent on your part to, if you want to have it formally as a motion to indicate that you authorize commission staff and specifically commission counsel at this point, just for this one item to assist you to get it done as far as the contract and other needed documentation.
Okay, thank you so much. Who would like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to authorize
This is Barbara Rogel Miller making the motion.
authorize the county staff to confirm the contract with the audit firm.
And I'll second that motion.
Moved by Barbara Rogel Miller, supported by
Fernanda Seals.
Bernard Seals. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who was the second on that motion?
Renata Seals.
So are we now on number G? I know we're on number service agreement, we just finished that, right?
No.
Commissioner Coyne, you had something to say about that?
Well, the end of the year is coming upon us. We've had an ongoing discussion at this board since the beginning of the year about the service agreement. And I believe, did we meet in January or February? At that meeting, we established a committee to begin discussions of the new service agreement. when we got to the meeting in May, that committee that we appointed had never met to begin looking at it. We have not, as a board, have had an opportunity or a methodology to digest the service agreement and what a May one, a new one, or an amended one, or whatever you want to say, would look like. One of the hangups that we've been having here, and it came up again today, was the dates. As we just discussed with the levy, the service agreement was to run the 10 years with the levy. The first levy was 2012 to 2021, with the end of 2021, December 31st of 2021. So the new service agreement, despite the date that the DIA has consistently said was an oversight on the service agreement, which is not the same kind of legal document as the voters passing a millage and establishing the 10-year period for the millage. And the Art Institute has consistently expressed their desire to have a new service agreement beginning January 1. I hope I'm getting all these dates right, 2023. We have discussed several things here, and one of them kind of came up again today when it was asked, what is Oakland and Macomb County doing? I have consistently recommended that the leadership of this art authority meet with the leadership of Oakland and Macomb to discuss this very issue. What are they doing? How are they approaching it? And that has not happened. So I think, you know, that we need to, as an art authority with an interest in the service agreements, I think we need to establish between now and the end of the year, the calendar year here, how we're going to go about digesting and negotiating a new service agreement with the DIA. And we're a long way into the year and that has not happened yet. So that is my abiding interest here, Madam Chair, that we have a clear pathway for how we're going to handle this as an art authority board. Thank you.
This is Renata speaking. I do agree with you, Tim. One of my concerns is when we talk about what is Oakland and Macomb doing, sometimes their interest is not the same interest of Wayne County. Wayne County is a totally different community, separate and very much different than Oakland and Macomb. So when we talk about the service agreement, yes, there needs to be discussions about the ins and outs and the particulars and itemizing things differently. And we do need to meet about that. But one of the things that to me should not be considered or shouldn't be a strong consideration is what Oakland and Macomb are doing, because they are different from us. Our communities are different and react differently to the DIA. So in regards to the service agreement date, what is written, I believe, is that the service agreement ends in 2023. I believe that is what's written. But what was understood is that it ended in 2022. But as Barb Miller brought up in our last meeting, that is not what is written. So as a body, we need to discuss what is written, what is agreed, and how we're going to move about it. And the largest consideration should not be what Oakland and Macomb is doing, because they are separate and different than Wayne County. So, to the board, yes, we have to have some discussions about the service agreement. To have them quickly, and we can't wait another 3 months to have them. But I do ask the board that you consider what is at stake for our community if we go along with what other communities are doing that do not necessarily have the same circumstances that we have. And that's all I have on that.
Thank you, Renata. Any other comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Gogh.
We have been talking about this December 31st, 2023 date that is on the expiration of the service agreement for a long, long time. This is the third meeting this year that has come up. Again, I will point out the DIA has consistently said, oops, that was not the intent. We've also heard from our Director of Equalization, and that the intention is that the service agreement run with the 10-year levy of the millage. As we've been approving every year as we have today, we approved today the resolution to levy the 10th year of the millage. And every one of those has had the date in it since day one. The discussion about Macomb and Oakland wasn't so much, and I'm not suggesting that we just follow the leader here, and in terms of the provisions within the service agreement. What we have discussed here is how is Oakland and Macomb approaching this December 31st, 2023 end date. Every report that I have, and we have discussed this here, is that they are in recognition that the new service agreement should start on January 1, 2023, not end on December 31st of 2023. I have encouraged in the past that we talk to leadership in both of those to see what they're doing about their end date and how they interpret that and how they're proceeding to move forward. And we've had this discussion here where the DIA is looking to have the new service agreement start with the new millage, which the first year will be levied this next year. I suppose it's possible that we could have the DIA submit an amended service agreement and just amending the ending date and to what was really originally intended, and we can approve that amendment, and that would put the discussion to rest. So, but that all aside, how is this board going to go about taking a look at the service agreements? We did establish a committee almost a year ago that has not met. How are we going to go about this? Whether the ending date is December 31st of this year, which it is, or if it even goes out another year, which I will vehemently oppose, but how are we as an authority board going to go about reviewing, recommending, having discussions? Do we care at all about the discussions that are going on in the other counties to see what some of their ideas may be? Are we going to get proposals before us coming from this board in terms of what should be the same, different, change, whatever in the service agreement? And I'm not feeling we're any closer to that right now than we were a year ago.
If I could speak again, yes, we have had this discussion That board was established maybe about 3 months ago, not a year ago, but 3 months ago. And since then, we've lost a member of that board that was appointed to handle this discussion, so that is an issue. But again, we are discussing what is written and what is implied. And what is written is 2023, December 2023. And yes, we could have the DIA amend that if this board chose to do that, but that should be a discussion because that is not necessarily for the DIA to decide. We are representing the people of Wayne County. That is for us to decide. This is just an issue. We have not had that discussion. And when I say that Oakland and Macomb County should not be strong considerations, it's the demographics that affect us that are different in Wayne County. And the service agreement could, if we just went along with what they wanted to do, their demographics are different and it could affect us negatively. So that is why I'm asking this board to strongly consider having a meeting because we definitely need to discuss. Yes, the levy said one thing. That is why I asked, did the millage, did the service agreement and the levy the dates have anything to do with each other? And this board, against what I brought up, decided to go ahead and approve the dates. But the service agreement is something different. Just because the levy says one thing, that is not what we have to do as far as the service agreement. This was brought to the floor by Barb Miller. I don't know where we are on this right now, but my question is the date. We've had legal counsel come in, Ms. Johnson came in and talked about the date. The date is December 2023. That is what's written. And sometimes an oops, like you stated, on the DIA part, doesn't necessarily have to be an oops on ours. And as a body, we have to make that decision. We have to have that discussion. It is written. Yes, it could be amended, but as of today, it is what is written. So we do need to discuss that as a body about how to move forward with that.
To clarify this in my mind, is written till December by Macomb and Oakland and ourselves
Wayne,
and
yes.
Wayne to the end of December 2023. Is that correct?
Correct.
So what issue do we, I'm not clear on, I have that COVID fog, I guess, so I'm trying to figure out where we are on this.
Barb, do you wish to speak to that at all?
Well, I accept that the millage dates are different from the agreement dates. And then the question is, will the money change for 2023? I mean, are we going to collect more? Are we going to collect more millage or, the word isn't millage. Are we going to collect more income from that millage under the new agreement? So will that agreement change for 2023? Do you understand my question?
So I understand the question. We started service agreement activity calendar year 2013. So 10 years of current service agreement activity would end at the end of this calendar year. We will have completed 10 years of service. And I'm saying this out loud just for my own edification too. So we have been talking, so when you look at the service agreement, it has an expiration date of 2023 December.
For all three counties.
In all three counties, they all say the same thing. That document, I was not here when we did the service agreement. That document was signed by, parties at the DIA and parties at, in the counties. And I can't say how it happened other than I think someone took a number and added 10 to it, which you end up with 11 years. So we're completing our 10th year of service agreement activity. And when we talked at this table before, I think the one decision that we did make was that we were going to look at a new service agreement within the same framework of free admission, a school program, senior program, community partnership programs. So that was my recollection at this table, and that is how the other two counties are moving forward as well. That's the framework. Within that framework, we've had conversations with the other counties, and, I don't know if Betty has met with the other counties, but so from the DIA's perspective, that's the framework that we all agreed to about a year ago. But the details within that framework certainly are up for a lot of conversation. So, and I know the question of what we're doing with Oakland and Macomb, they are actively engaged in conversations about a new service agreement. And, for the sake of parity, it probably is, more effective for the DIA to deliver services to all three counties, with some consistency. I'm not saying that, right now we have community partnership programs that looks different for each county. So certainly within that framework, there can be differences, but that is sort of where we are. That's what we've heard from the county so far, that the framework will stand, and we are pursuing a new agreement with Oakland and Macomb that would begin next calendar year.
I spoke with both Tom and Jim from Macomb and Oakland, and my interpretation of what they told me was that the agreement would go until 2023. Am I not hearing this right or understand this?
So they're both pursuing a service agreement that would begin January 1, 2023. So they are proceeding like the current agreement will be.
It would be the same, because that's what I thought they told me when I talked to them about 2 months ago.
Right, but this one ends this calendar year. And that the conversations we're having about making changes within the current framework would take effect January 1, 2023.
And that is where my concern is. They have already discussed the changes that they want to make, because things that work in Wayne County don't necessarily work in Oakland and Macomb County. And because we have not had those discussions, excuse me, because we have not had those discussions, that is why our framework is going to be different. And that's where the concern is. Excuse me.
Maybe I misunderstood them because of the COVID fog, but I thought that they said that they had agreed through 2023.
Yeah, that's not my understanding. Those aren't the terms that we're working on in agreement with Oakland and Macomb. They are looking to begin whatever adjustments, new service agreement, December 1st or January 1st, 2023. So 2023 would be year one of the second 10-year agreement.
You're saying that that's not what I understood when I talked to Tom the last time, so that's why I was asking that question. So they must have changed since I spoke to them a month ago or so. So I talked to Tom, and you asked me that question too, and I told you that Tom told me that. Well, I think I told you. I don't know, maybe not.
Well,
but that whatever it is, if he spoke to you, it's latter. I have to understand that. So that's all I was asking.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
a reading from the good book, the minutes of February 21st, 2022 of this authority board. Motion by Tim Colleen with a second by Renata Seal, that an ad hoc committee be established to include Betty Misaraka, Dawn Cotton, and Renata Seals to do the following. A, review our service agreements. B, talk with Oakland and Macomb counties to understand where they are at with the process of developing and forming their new agreements. And C, review that information with authority members. Said motion was carried. That's what we decided to do February 21st of this year.
And understand that we lost Don Cotton 2 months ago, And if you look at from February to July.
If we're just gonna interrupt each other, I'm gonna interrupt
I'm
you
sorry,
then too.
I'm
No,
sorry,
you're not.
I'm
You just
sorry.
interrupt. That it doesn't matter. You lose a member, you come back to the board. We had a meeting in March or whatever, April. And said, oh, we lost a member, but that committee has never met. There's been no follow-up. Where we had kind of established as a board, this is the process that we want to proceed on. So we have had the opportunity, and in there, in the motion, which was seconded and unanimously approved, we did say, nobody is saying that we're going to copy exactly what Oakland and Macomb are doing. By the way, Oakland is a different county than Macomb. We don't know that they're doing the exact same thing. We have not talked to them. The major reason to talk to them was, okay, we got this date thing that everybody seems to agree is in error about December 31st of 2023. And this happens all the time. People, you do it on your calendars where you try to add 7 days a week to see what next Monday is going to be. And you come up a day off. Everybody's done this. Come on. And the same thing with a decade, right? Oh, does the new millennium start in 2000 or 2001? And if it's 10 years from 2001, do you include 2001? So then it's 2010. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2000 plus 10 does not get you to 2010. It gets you to 2009. So come on, everybody's made this mistake. And so that's one of the reasons to say, hey, how are you guys approaching this out in these other counties, right? With this out there. I have been raising this with the DIA for a couple of years now, saying, hey, we ought to look at this. Your attorneys ought to look at this. You ought to come with some sort of a, so I think what we do here is the common sense thing to do, right? One of the obligations that people have on public boards is called the, and I'm going to forget what it is now. It's the common man principle, I guess. What would an average person do, right, in a situation? I don't have the exact word for it, but it's like using your common sense is what it's all about. 10-year millages that are approved by the voters. 2012 to the end of this fiscal year or this year. And that starting next year is the new millage and the new 10-year period. It'd be nice to have a service agreement for that. And so again, do we want to stick with this committee and that we have already approved and to add another person since Ms. Patton is no longer on this board and to say, go get it and have your discussions with the DIA, check with Oakland and Macomb, see what they're doing, maybe send out little questionnaires to board members. This is what we're running across. These are some of the new ideas. Would you like to submit? Because I think we have to do something, or should, at our December 19th meeting this year.
I'd like to make a comment. You said we didn't meet. A lot of us had COVID. I had COVID all of
I'm not
April, May.
pointing fingers. I'm
but-
only
but
pointing
I
out
want
the
to-
facts.
But I want to make it clear to the public that COVID did affect a lot of people, including me, and I didn't even know who I was for like 2 or 3 months. So you can't say that that's something that's an ordinary year that we've had. And if it's happened to
I
me, I
never
should.
said an ordinary year.
No, well, you know,
I
Excuse
said
me, Chairwoman, may I
February
speak?
21st, this is what we approved. And that
Chairwoman,
committee
may I
never
speak?
met.
yes.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to apologize to Commissioner Colleen. It is never my intent to be rude or abrasive in my speech or in my tone. So in saying that, in February, to address what you read, in February, we did come with with a committee. And since then, 5 months, not a year, 5 months, we did lose a member 3 months later. So that did affect things. And to the chair, she has reached out to Oakland and Macomb. So those things did happen. We did lose a member and we can continue these talks. This is a complete board. We all have an opinion, we all have a vote, and we all have a say-so in which things should go. And in saying that the service agreement, I agree with you. We need to have that discussion. But to say that nothing has happened, plenty of things have happened with our chair, meeting with the other chairs. If for some reason someone is not in agreement with what is happening or the process in which it stands, that is why we might have to take this whole year that we do have left, according to what is written, to iron out things. I'm sorry that things are not going as fast. COVID has affected so many people in their lives that we do have issues. It's not an excuse, but we do represent the public. And in order to do that effectively, we need to gather, we need to talk, we need to have discussions with other people. And part of that was seeking counsel to discuss this date. We are still there, and I'm asking that the chair consider that we still need to seek counsel to talk about this service agreement date. And if in fact we do choose to go ahead and let it end December 22, which is still an option, it's an option that we need to discuss among the board members. And that's just where I am, regardless to what committee came about in February. We have accomplished some things, but what we have not accomplished yet is the error on the DIA's part and addressing that. So again, I would like to apologize to Mr. Colleen for interrupting, but what I said still stands. We need to seek counsel and we need to meet before we agree to the service date ending and the service date beginning, because we are talking about what is written and what was implied. That's all I have.
Thank you. So where do we go from here?
Madam Chair, will you appoint a third person to your committee to replace a person who is no longer on the board?
Well, I would like to ask any of those that would like to serve on that committee to come forward and share that information now, instead of just appointing someone.
Madam Chair, because we didn't know that this was going to be an option today, we do have a board member that's out, and we have one that will be appointed who is very versed in contracts and things like that, that will be coming on board. And I think that you will be pleased. So before we actually do that today, I believe that it's going to go, this is going to go before commission. That person's board membership will go before commission very soon, within a week or so. And before you make a decision, if you can ask for a volunteer, that's one thing. But I do believe that the CEO is replacing Don Cotton with somebody who is very versed in what Don Cotton does before we make a decision today, because we do have absent members and things like that. So
All those in agreement with that?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
What, was that a motion and a second?
I'm not
a
sure.
motion to
Okay, what's the motion?
hold off on putting
Motion to delay third party
is appointed to the board
on
and
committee
approved by commission.
until new board member is appointed. Okay, who was that motion by? In the second,
I'll second. Maria Lambert. Seconded by
Maria.
Maria Lambert.
Okay,
All those in favor?
aye.
Any opposition? Motion carried. So we're on such other matters. Any such other matters? No such other matters. Any public comment? Any public comment?
Lines have been
Yeah,
asked to.
this is, sorry.
Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, my name is Steve Panton from Detroit. Obviously, the service contract is a very big deal. It specifies the services that the people of Wayne County will get in return for $100 million of public funding. The current service contract only accounts for about 5% of the money that is being transferred. By adopting the current framework, all you can do is play with a few numbers. I don't think you can change it much from 5% to the close to 100% that I think is reasonable for the citizens of Wayne County to expect. The current service agreement, per Commissioner Colleen's admission, was written by the DIA's own lawyers. So this is a big deal. It's not a trivial task. You haven't even started to address the most significant part of it, which is determining, as Board Member Seals Evans indicates, determining what the people, the residents of Wayne County actually want. So I don't have any solutions for you, but I would say that were you not a public board, you'd probably employ professional researchers and a professional negotiator. And I think you need some more troops. Frankly, if the current service agreement framework continues, it is going to be to the detriment of the people of Wayne County and to the profit of the DIA. So I think you need some help. You know, frankly, professional negotiation help, professional research help. The current framework isn't an option. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
What was your name, sir? I missed that.
My name is Steve Panton, Panton.
So how, Mr. Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
As of now, I don't see any more hands raised. No emails have been received.
Much.
Ready to adjourn?
I'm sorry.
I said, are we ready to adjourn?
Any other public comment? Shall we adjourn? Have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Dr. Gilmiller.
Second, Maria.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.